I am emotionally frigid and have chosen to marry the renowned, ascetic figure within our circle. For a year, we have maintained a relationship characterized by mutual respect, sharing only the warmth of conversation beneath the covers. During an evening banquet, I inadvertently overheard his innermost thoughts. His waist is so slender. His lips, stained with wine, evoke a desire to kiss. Startled, my hand trembled, causing my wine glass to tilt and crimson liquid to spill upon my exquisite gown. His expression remained impassive, revealing no trace of disturbance. No, it's more like I desperately wish to lick. Help! This ascetic is acting strangely. What happened to the promised aloof and untouchable flower? A voice, crisp and cool, echoed in my ears. I fixed my gaze and set my glass down, glancing at Shun Linyu beside me. His eyes were cast down, lost in contemplation. Yet evidently he had not just spoken. Strange. Isn't this Shun Linyu's voice? I am all too familiar with it. It is his habitual tone. Distant and restrained, devoid of any earthly warmth. It perfectly aligns with the public's perception of him. I discreetly shook my head. Perhaps the exhaustion from recent work has led to auditory hallucinations? It seems I ought to grant myself a few days of respite upon my return. Shun Linyu noticed my slight movement. He turned his head towards me and quietly inquired, "What's wrong?" I replied softly, "I'm fine." He said nothing further, scrutinizing me for a considerable moment before turning back. Perhaps he was merely ensuring my well-being. The guest before us was a prominent client of the company. I was poised to offer this client a second glass of wine. The glass was already poised at my lips. Then, that voice resurfaced in my ear. His lips, stained with wine, evoke a desire to kiss. Too, the flawless smile upon my visage abruptly froze. Could it possibly be mere auditory hallucination? My hand instinctively trembled, causing the champagne flute I held to sway violently, spilling the icy liquid and staining the hem of my expensive gown. "Ah, be careful." A nearby guest gasped in astonishment. I was utterly flustered. My mind went blank, and I paid no heed to the disarray I had caused. Instead, I turned to the man beside me. He set down his glass, maintaining an air of calm detachment, devoid of any sorrow or joy. Silently, he offered me a pure white handkerchief, an object he had carried with him for years. "Do be cautious," he advised. His gaze lowered upon me. His nearly divine countenance remained unruffled, his lashes slightly veiling his eyes, as if the words he had spoken were nothing more than a figment of my imagination. He softly inquired, "Zhou Chuyan, are you intoxicated?" Before I could respond, Shun Linyu had already nodded an apology to the guests. He then took my arm, guiding me towards the lounge. I was still in a state of shock. As we walked, I heard that suppressed voice again. "No, I really want to lick." This time, the voice was exceptionally clear, imbued with an almost fervent yearning that struck directly into my consciousness. Soaked through, I wished to lick it clean right now. 3. What? At this moment, I could confirm that this voice belonged to Shun Linyu. Lick clean? Lick where? Surely it must refer to the wine stains at the corners of my lips? Or was it something more? My blood felt as if it surged to my head in that instant. I could sense my cheeks growing increasingly warm. Alarmed, I instinctively withdrew the hand he held, only for him to grasp it tighter. I abruptly lifted my gaze, colliding with Shun Linyu's tranquil, unfathomable eyes. As deep as a cold pool. He regarded me with a look of confusion. It was then that I remembered to defend myself. "Shun Linyu, I am not drunk. I can walk on my own." With that, I forcibly retracted my hand, hastening a few steps to leave him behind. Fortunately, this time, Shun Linyu did not attempt to stop me. Thankfully, it seemed that I had not heard any more voices. I silently exhaled in relief, only to recall another matter. Wait, does this mean that Shun Linyu is not the abstinent, ascetic figure everyone claims him to be? As for why I could hear his thoughts, it was simply that I lost control and spilled my drink. The true reason was that I was inadequate. It was precisely for this reason that I chose Shun Linyu, the stoic and aloof flower on the summit, as my intended partner. 4. I have long harbored suspicions about my own emotional detachment. Throughout my life, while watching dramas, I would often silently skip over the stimulating, passionate scenes. Each time I encountered them, my heart remained as still as water, lacking any ripple of emotion. The atmosphere among my peers has always been excessively extravagant. Numerous affluent young men and women indulge in nightlife, hiring male models. Meanwhile, although I possess an extroverted personality, my true passions lie in reading, playing the piano, and cracking walnuts. After graduation, I simply took over the family business. It wasn't until I reached the age of 25, having remained single all my life, that my parents finally realized, how had it come to pass that there was not a single man by my side all these years? They even began to question whether their own harmonious relationship had instilled in me the belief that finding a compatible partner was an insurmountable challenge, leading to my disinterest in intimate relationships. They have always been rather unorthodox and concocted a brilliant plan, deliberately arguing in front of me several times, hoping to convey that even the best couples do bicker. They would quarrel in the morning before leaving for work and continue upon returning home at night, seemingly oblivious to my feelings as someone employed. It was already a hassle going to work. They believed their performances to be highly effective. Initially, I pretended not to notice and walked away, but ultimately, I couldn't help but return and, with a straight face, inquire, "Are you two arguing? Could you refrain from flirting in front of your child?" "My mother." "My father." They exchanged glances and hesitantly replied, "All right." I thought that after that conversation, my parents would finally relent. Yet, to my surprise, their determination remained unyielding. On one occasion, they even sent two men into my room, both bare-chested. One was unruly and brash, while the other was handsome and refined. Their distinct temperaments shared the commonality of striking appearances and impressive physiques. I surmised that their service awareness was quite commendable. 5. Who can comprehend returning home after work to find two men in their room? I propped my chin on my hand and scrutinized them for quite some time, hardly blinking. Their discomfort was palpable, and they nearly lost their composure under my gaze. After observing them enough, I personally draped clothing over them and ushered them out. My parents presumed I was afraid of men, but that was not the case. The phrase "a feast for the eyes" proves true. Naturally, I appreciate beauty. However, I simply lack interest in intimate contact. My heart remains as still as water. Subsequently, my parents persisted, subtly probing whether I desired to marry. Marriage? It implies establishing a long-term contract with another individual. Upon hearing this question, I pondered for several days. In truth, marriage is not entirely unfeasible. In this circle, there are plenty of couples who appear harmonious, yet are emotionally distant. Marriage merely signifies a matter of mutual benefit. As long as the other person is good-looking and maintains their distance, I am content. I surveyed my options and ultimately, I found myself drawn to the widely acknowledged pinnacle of desirability within our circle, Shun Linyu. Having been classmates for several years, I was well acquainted with him. He had long maintained a distance from women, often seen playing with a string of prayer beads. Ah, how splendid! He was not only strikingly handsome but also abstinent, showing no interest in intimacy. Wasn't he the perfect husband I had envisioned? Thus, I returned to inform my parents, who were overjoyed, believing I had finally come to my senses. They approached the Shin family with a proposal for a union. To their astonishment, the Shin family agreed swiftly, even suggesting that the wedding could be arranged within a month. The pace was remarkable, yet the scale was considerable, for it was the Shin family. Nevertheless, it felt as though they were fearful of my potential regret. Historically, the Zhou and Shun families had not shared many ties, yet this development bound us together. However, post-marriage, I remained the general manager of the Zhou family business, while Shun Linyu continued to oversee the Shin family enterprise. The frequency of our interactions increased significantly. Excellent. Everything unfolded as I had anticipated. After the wedding, I discovered that Shun Linyu truly lacked interest in intimacy, yet our relationship remained amicable. We treated one another with mutual respect. In the evenings, we would merely chat under the covers. Although I tended to speak more, he was an excellent listener. We both tacitly accepted this state of affairs. It was stable and reassuring. Thus, we lived as a married couple for a year. Until tonight, when I suddenly became able to hear Shun Linyu's thoughts. I realized that perhaps everything had been an illusion. Returning to the villa that night, I feared he might utter something I could not bear to hear. In pursuit of tranquility, as I stepped through the threshold, I was the first to seize my clothing and retreat to the bathroom. Little did I anticipate that I would soon lament my decision to enter the bathroom first. Had I known, I would have allowed him to go ahead. Shun Linyu had merely delayed a moment. He cast a contemplative glance at the figure that had hurriedly dashed into the bathroom. My emotions were a complex tapestry, primarily tinged with the sensation of a character unraveling. By the time I emerged from the shower, firmly securing my towel, I had managed to restore my composure. Perhaps he was merely speaking in jest after all. We were bound by the ties of marriage. However, the thoughts of a beautiful woman lingered in my mind, which I could reluctantly accept. I was magnanimous about it. After all, he would not take any tangible action. It had been a year. If Shin Linyu truly wished to pursue something, he would have done so by now. Unless, of course, he was incapable. I couldn't help but indulge in a morbid curiosity, speculating whether Shin Linyu was merely nurturing his own disposition, which was why he acquiesced to the marriage alliance with the Zhou family. Chuckling silently to myself, I shook my head, towel in hand. As I sat on the edge of the bed, the mattress sank beneath my weight. As I toweled my hair, I turned to behold Shin Linyu's chiseled visage. He sat in stillness, his back straight, fingers delicately toying with a string of prayer beads, his movements deliberate and unhurried. Our gazes locked, and I realized he had been intently observing me. Shin Linyu's eyes were as tranquil as water, and when our gazes met, they rippled with subtle intensity. My throat tightened. Then, the familiar, crystalline voice echoed in my ear. What should I do? I can hardly contain myself. I responded, Shin Linyu, gaze into my eyes and tell me, what is it that you find difficult to restrain? Before I could fully comprehend the situation, Shin Linyu abruptly rose and approached me step by step. Zhou Chuyun. Ah, what is it? His pace was unhurried, as if he held complete dominion over the moment. I maintained a facade of calm, though my body was rigid with tension, and my heart was tumultuous. After all, it is not unusual for spouses to engage in such activities. Yet, I am nurturing my disposition. I cannot. Goodness. Regardless of how much he may be unable to contain himself, could he not just hold back for a moment? Oh dear, why is he drawing ever closer? Please, do not approach. And so it was that Shin Linyu reached my side, halting before me. Why are you standing so close? I thought, why am I trembling? He leaned in slowly. As he drew near, I was about to utter a word when he swiftly tucked a strand of my hair behind my ear, furrowing his brow. Your hair is still damp. Well, I suppose I needed your reminder. I mustered a flawless smile, suggesting, why not assist me? This was not the first time I had extended such an invitation. I recalled the first time I had inadvertently posed the question, expecting a cool rejection from Shin Linyu. After all, he had been raised in luxury and likely had never performed such tasks for others. At that moment, I had smiled at him. I apologize. It slipped out instinctively. I suppose I am accustomed to addressing my mother in such a manner. Upon realizing that I had inadvertently likened him to my mother, I was surprised when Shin Linyu had readily acquiesced. Sure, I will help. Ever since, I noticed he often took it upon himself to assist me in many tasks. He spoke little, yet acted much. I pondered that perhaps this was simply a reflection of his inherent disposition towards his wife. He stood behind me, wielding the hairdryer to dry my hair. The warm air whooshed around me. His fingers were deft, moving gently through my hair, and the beads on his wrist emitted a soft chime. The symphony of sounds lulled me into a yawn. Tired? I suddenly snapped to attention, nodding vigorously. Yes, I should wash up and sleep, putting aside all those frivolous thoughts. All right, I have work to do tonight. You should rest. Lowering his head, he undid his tie with one hand while stealing a glance at me, informing me, I will sleep in the study. In the past, when Shin Linyu worked late and feared disturbing me, he would opt to sleep in the study. Oh, yes. Off you go, quickly. Perhaps sensing my unusual excitement, Shin Linyu paused, raising his head to squint at me. Oh dear, I must not let my delight become too evident. I forced myself to suppress the corners of my mouth that threatened to curl upward, feigning disappointment. That is perfectly fine, do go. All right. I couldn't tell if it was my imagination, but Shin Linyu's expression seemed to cloud with a hint of disappointment. Simultaneously, his inner thoughts shifted. She appears quite pleased. It seems she truly dislikes me. Wait, is that something Shin Linyu would say? Why does it sound so oddly whimsical? I admit, I find it quite amusing. But I flashed a broad smile and declared, then you should go. I'm feeling drowsy. It was evident that Shin Linyu's expression grew even more despondent. I quietly lowered my head, stifling a chuckle to myself. Oh, you think you can outmaneuver me? I stretched languorously, rising to my feet and casually picking up his pillow and a few items. Oh dear, I seem to have lost my drowsiness. Let me tidy up a bit before I sleep. Shin Linyu gazed at me intently, a hint of a smile playing at his lips. All right, thank you. How peculiar. Is he truly so pleased by my simple act of assistance? Had I never helped him before? Upon reflection, it seemed I had never been so proactive in offering my aid. I considered this as I gathered the items and made my way to the study, with him trailing behind. All right, I'm off. After placing the items down, I completed the tidying up and prepared to turn back, when I heard his silent yearning. Sigh. I wish we could sleep together. Go away. Sleep together? What nonsense. My cheeks flushed slightly. Instantly, I turned around and shot Shin Linyu a fierce glare, only to be momentarily entranced by his beauty under the light. Shin Linyu exuded an aura of coldness, his eyes a clear hue with elongated corners. When he looked at me, there was an icy detachment, devoid of emotion. At that moment, perhaps bewildered by my sudden glare, he merely widened his eyes in confusion. What's the matter? His gaze held a newfound liveliness as he regarded me. Setting aside Shin Linyu's striking features, I smiled and gritted my teeth, muttering, "It's nothing. You talk too much." Shin Linyu. After uttering those words, I slammed the door shut with a resounding bang. I simply cannot escape it. That night, I occupied the entire bed alone, my mind swirling with Shin Linyu's lascivious thoughts. I turned over. My lips are stained with wine. I long to kiss. I flipped again. No, I desire to lick. Tossing and turning, sleep eluded me, leaving me staring wide-eyed at the ceiling.
Shin Linyu.
You have truly caused me great distress. At breakfast, Shin Linyu sat across the table, leisurely enjoying his meal. I stole glances at him. He appeared elegant and refined, yet beneath that facade lay a hypocritical nature. The crux of the matter was that we were married, and I could not confront Shin Linyu directly. Should I tell him, "Shin Linyu, if you continue to indulge in your fantasies about me, I shall not hold back"? I bit down hard on the toast I was holding. Yes, I was treating the toast as if it were Shin Linyu. He nonchalantly raised his gaze to me and inquired, "Did you not sleep well last night?" I flashed him a commercial smile, insisting, "Not at all. I actually slept quite well." What a ridiculous notion. In the past, whenever we slept together, I would effortlessly drift into slumber as soon as I closed my eyes, often sleeping soundly until dawn. What if Shin Linyu were to think that his departure would impede my ability to sleep? That would certainly lead to a grave misunderstanding. Shin Linyu glanced at me with an expressionless gaze, remarking, "I find the bed in the study rather hard." I was taken aback. How could his bed feel any harder than mine? Was he complaining, or was it some sort of subtle hint? Just last night, who had said, "I miss sleeping together"? I opened my mouth, poised to retort, "If you find it hard, then come back and sleep here." But then I recalled something, and all I could do was smile at him, saying, "Oh, is that so? Then I appreciate your sacrifice, my dear husband." As Shin Linyu sipped his coffee, the moment my words left my lips, he unexpectedly choked and began coughing uncontrollably. I approached him, feigning concern as I patted his back, continuing to speak, "My dear husband, are you all right? You should drink some water," I urged. With every word I uttered, his coughing intensified, as if it were a perpetual cycle. After a while, I finally ceased speaking and returned to my seat. Shin Linyu usually maintained a composed demeanor, his expression unwavering, with nary a ripple of emotion crossing his face. His complexion, pale as freshly fallen snow, now bore a faint blush. He unconsciously bit his lip, and the corners of his eyes turned red from coughing. While I ate my breakfast, I couldn't help but steal glances at him. There was something almost fragile about him at that moment, rendering him even more enchanting. Just as this thought crossed my mind, another voice echoed in my head, tinged with a hint of grievance. "Is it hard? My wife clearly doesn't want me to come back and sleep." I ground my teeth in disbelief. Goodness, I had underestimated him. He had certainly mastered the art of reciprocity when it came to calling me his wife. A few nights later, after returning home and finishing my shower, Shin Linyu unexpectedly knocked on my door, providing a calm explanation. "The bathroom in the study is broken. May I return to sleep here tonight?" I blinked in surprise. What a coincidence. "Of course," I replied. Thus, Shin Linyu moved back to the master bedroom once more. As we lay side by side, I turned and caught sight of his sleeping face, his long eyelashes resting softly against his cheeks. Ah, how tranquil it was now. I gazed at his face for a while, reminiscing about the first time I encountered Shin Linyu during the freshman orientation ceremony. He stood there as the representative, exuding an aura of aloofness that had already made him the heartthrob of the entire school. Yet at that time, we were mere acquaintances, having exchanged only fleeting words. Who would have thought that years later, we would be sharing the same bed, hearing his peculiar thoughts? As I continued to watch him, drowsiness gradually overcame me, and I closed my eyes to sleep. The next day, after arranging matters at the company, I decided to take a few days off for myself. Understanding oneself and one's adversary leads to victory in every battle. It seemed essential to comprehend him better to grasp the contradiction between his words and actions. What had become of the cool, abstinent figure he portrayed? It was as if his persona was a fade, while the Shun Linyu, who frequently expressed his thoughts, was a stark contrast. I truly wished I could return him for a refund. I planned to have a chat with Aunt Lee at home, hoping to gather some insights. I had heard that Aunt Lee had worked for the Shun family since Shun Linyu was very young. After his marriage, she had come to work at this villa. She must know all about Shun Linyu's upbringing. I began with a casual conversation, discussing various trivial matters before casually inquiring about Shun Linyu. Aunt Lee, I heard you were around when Linyu was a child. Could you share some stories about him? This was the first time I had ever asked her about Shun Linyu. Upon hearing my question, Aunt Lee's face broke into a wide grin. Oh my, madam, I've been waiting for you to ask. She regaled me with amusing anecdotes from Shun Linyu's childhood, describing how he was always exceptionally well-behaved, resembling a little adult, and how he had a penchant for being first in everything. I recalled how he often competed for the top spot during our high school years. How adorable. By the way, Aunt Lee, when did he start wearing those prayer beads? His birthday is approaching, and I'm thinking about what gift to give him. Aunt Lee paused, deep in thought. Well, young master, wasn't he interested in Buddhism when he was little? He suddenly started wearing the beads one day. In high school, he came home looking unwell, and that's when he developed this habit, which has persisted until now. No one in the family knows why he suddenly became infatuated with them, but since then, people have referred to him as the Buddha child. Oh, it's quite amusing. I nodded, realizing there must be a reason behind it all. What had prompted such a sudden change? After questioning Aunt Lee, I sought out another individual for more insights. That lady accidentally let slip a piece of information. Madam, I've only heard rumors, so please don't be angry with the young master, she said. I'm not entirely sure, but it's said that the young master has been looking rather glum lately. Apparently, he suffered a heartbreak? It's been speculated that a girl rejected him. I was taken aback, never expecting such an answer. So, Shun Linyu was merely guarding his heart, having been rejected by his idealized figure? If that were the case, why did he harbor such thoughts about me? For some reason, my mood soured unexpectedly. After a few days of rest, I returned to work. During this time, Shun Linyu had been sleeping in the study while I spent my days and nights out with my friend, Tao Qianni, attempting to avoid encounters with him. I hadn't heard any of his thoughts. It was quite considerate of him. Otherwise, I wouldn't know how to face him. In the morning, I quickly finished my breakfast without sparing him a glance and stood up. I'm done eating. I'm heading to the office. Just as I reached the entrance, I heard the sound of steady footsteps behind me. Shun Linyu had followed me. I'll see you off. His tone was casual, as he effortlessly picked up my coat from the rack. Now I can stay a little longer. Here it came again. Unlike before, when I found it amusing, I now felt inexplicably irritable. Goodness, didn't he have his idealized figure? Was he developing feelings for me again? But I didn't want to show it directly. So I immediately declined. No need. Uncle Zhang can drive me. Shun Linyu regarded me with a glance, his hand holding the coat suspended in the air. I remained resolute, extending my hand to take the coat from him. Thankfully, he didn't insist and simply nodded, all right. Rejected again. I want to embrace you. The very essence of rejection. I suppressed my emotions, ignoring the look of disappointment in his eyes. I finally exhaled once seated in the Bentley. This was becoming unbearable. At noon, I deliberately staggered my lunch break with my friend Tao Qianni, arriving at the company's cafeteria earlier. Good morning, President Zhou. Good morning, President Zhou. After exchanging pleasantries, I settled down, only to be startled by a cheerful voice from behind me. President Zhou? I turned to look, momentarily frozen in place. Tao Qianni was engrossed in the menu, casually asking, "Who is it?" After greeting Liang Miao, I turned back in shock. I quietly informed Tao Qianni. Yes, the one my parents sent to my room a few years ago. Yes, the handsome one. Tao Qianni's eyes widened in realization, fully aware of the bizarre things my parents had done. Puffed. I remember now. Let me see. He's handsome, right? Tao Qianni set down the menu and handed it to me, eagerly casting glances in that direction. Liang Miao noticed and greeted her with a smile. After observing the man's face, Tao Qianni poked my hand curiously. What's wrong? Xiaoyan, do you not think he bears a slight resemblance to President Shun Linyu? Resemble him? I recalled that familiar visage and instinctively retorted, not at all. Shun Linyu is far more handsome. Tao Qianni paused in surprise. With a teasing smile, She remarked, "Is that so? It seems even you have succumbed to President Shen's captivating beauty." The mention of Shen Linyu inevitably led my thoughts to why he so often fidgeted with those prayer beads. I scoffed lightly, waved my hand, and chuckled. "President Shen? He is quite average, really." No sooner had I uttered those words than I caught sight of Shen Linyu's frosty countenance emerging behind Tao Qianni. His expression was dark, and his gaze fixed on me, evidently having only registered my words quite average. His eyes dropped to the bag in his hand, and I noticed the familiar thermal container perched atop it. Wait, was Shen Linyu bringing me lunch? I froze in place. Tao Qianni, with her back to him, remained blissfully unaware. She continued, "Is that so? So you're not swayed by President Shen's charm? What is it you prefer? I can help you find someone. Next time, I'll bring you 10 male models." "What are you talking about? Please don't." I attempted to signal her with my eyes, but she seemed oblivious. Just then, Liang Miao, perhaps finished with his meal, approached our table. "Zhou Zong, it's been a while. I owe you a debt of gratitude from 3 years ago." I could no longer discern what he was saying, my attention fixated on Shen Linyu's increasingly stormy expression at the entrance. Whatever gratitude he wished to express, please, let us not discuss it now. After Liang Miao finished his thanks, he walked away, entirely oblivious to Shen Linyu's presence. Remarkably, Shen Linyu said nothing, merely striding over to me silently. He retrieved the thermal container and handed it to me. "Lunch." And then he fell silent. I had hoped to glean his thoughts through a mental connection, but to my astonishment, his mind was eerily quiet. Cough. Was this the feeling of being sunk? Just then, I hadn't even ordered yet. Only Tao Qianni had placed her order. An awkward tension hung between the three of us. It wasn't tea until Shen Linyu departed that Tao Qianni let out a long sigh and patted my shoulder. "Xiaoyan, surely you're Shen isn't that petty." It was just a casual remark. I responded he shouldn't be. Besides, what could he really do? This was not the first time he had brought me lunch. Once, I had complimented Shen Linyu on his cooking skills. Ever since, as long as he wasn't swamped with work, he would prepare meals at home to bring over. He occasionally sent others from his home, but it was rare for him to come himself. I never anticipated that today would be the day he chose to come. Later that evening, after concluding a video conference and taking a shower, Shen Linyu still had not returned. Upon checking my phone, I discovered he had sent me a message an hour prior. "I have to work late. You should sleep first." "Fine." I blinked and set my phone down, retiring to bed early. Perhaps due to the rarity of such an early bedtime, I found it difficult to fall into a deep sleep. In a hazy state, I heard the sound of the door opening. Someone approached, and a tingling sensation brushed my face, as if warmed by gentle fingertips. So fragrant. It was Shen Linyu returning. Suddenly, I felt a rush of clarity and resisted the urge to open my eyes. Shen Linyu's thoughts echoed in his mind. Her eyelashes are so long. She looks beautiful even in sleep. Why does he keep staring at me when he has feelings for someone else? Her lips appear so soft. Just like that day, when alcohol lingered on them. Shen Linyu drew nearer, enveloped in the scent of cedarwood, with a faint hint of alcohol in the air. Had he been drinking? His warm breath brushed against my cheek. He continued to murmur to himself, "No, Shen Linyu, she doesn't like you to touch her." My heart raced like a drum. Shen Linyu finally spoke. "Qian." Huh? Why was he suddenly calling my name? Is pretending to be asleep amusing? I was compelled to open my eyes. The lamp at the foot of the bed was still lit, casting a warm glow on Shen Linyu's face as he gazed intently at me. "Awake? Can we discuss what you meant by average today?" A surge of unnameable anger welled within me. Perhaps it had begun when I first heard his thoughts, or perhaps it was because I realized I might have developed feelings for him. But I decided not to dwell on it. I sat up, a few strands of hair cascading onto his shoulder, and pointed at the prayer beads on his wrist, frowning. "Shen Linyu, why do you wear those beads constantly, even after getting married? Explain your white moonlight." Shen Linyu initially regarded me earnestly until the last few words struck him dumb. White moonlight. He quickly regained his composure, leaning in slightly, one hand bracing against the bed beside me, a faint smile gracing his lips. "Isn't my white moonlight you?" He revealed that he had known me since childhood and had once brought me breakfast in high school. I had no recollection of this. That was the first time I gave a girl a gift, yet I overheard her say she was pure and unambitious, preferring a life of serendipity, and had a fondness for Buddhism. Then she tossed my breakfast and the note into the trash. His tone was flat, as if recounting someone else's story. But my family would never allow me. So, the white moonlight you mentioned is me? His assertion triggered a memory of having thrown something away once. However, it was from the school bully who constantly harassed me, not Shinli. It's not exactly a lost love. I simply wanted to heed her words, to remain pure of heart, and to meditate with my prayer beads. I stared at him in shock. The reason behind being called a Buddhist child for so many years was this? So, Zhou Chuyun, you care about this matter, don't you?
Why?
I lowered my head, contemplating for a moment before taking a deep breath. Perhaps it's because of me. Before I could finish, Shinli interrupted, gently covering my mouth with his hand. I have liked you for a very long time. I recalled Aunt Lee saying that Shinli always aimed to be first in everything. Did he intend to be the first to confess as well? I never expected this. I blinked. Oh, me too. Recently, the peculiarities of my emotions had found their explanations. To candidly admit my feelings was indeed my style, Zhou Chuyun. Was what you said about average today true? I replied without hesitation. False. Shinli's lips curled into a smile, his previously aloof eyes now brightened. I want to kiss you. Here we go again. Shinli, if you want to kiss me, just do it. Stop overthinking. It's giving me a headache. Upon hearing my words, Shinli paused, a low laugh escaping him. How did you know I wanted to kiss you? Naturally, it was because I could hear your thoughts. He took my hand, pressing it closely against his palm. His fingers were long and well-defined, the tips rounded and clean, strikingly beautiful. Gradually, our fingers intertwined. Desires aside, he confessed. I formally request to hold hands for an entire evening. Consider it a reward for me. After our first hand-holding, perhaps knowing I disliked other forms of contact, Shinli became engrossed in gently caressing my hand, as if enchanted. As we stepped outside for a leisurely stroll, it was imperative that our hands were intertwined. During conference calls at home, as long as I was unoccupied, hand-holding was a necessity. Even during my commute to work, sitting in the car, we had to hold hands. I mused, truly, he is a hand-holding enthusiast. Meanwhile, his inner thoughts echoed, my wife looks exceptionally beautiful today. At a reunion with our middle school classmates, he declared proudly, this is my wife. I glanced at Shinli's composed face and couldn't help but chuckle with exasperation. Well, it seems this man is beyond redemption. Aunt Lee observed the blossoming of my relationship with Shinli and was utterly delighted, going to great lengths to prepare delectable meals for us. Apart from our hand-holding, Shinli refrained from any excessive actions. Having heard his audacious words, I occasionally found myself fixating on Shinli's lips. Indeed, they appeared quite inviting. After several such stares, I assumed he might pick up on my hints. Yet, Shinli remained oblivious, seemingly unaware of my intentions. Each time I feigned annoyance or disdain, he would lower his gaze, fiddling with his prayer beads, looking utterly aggrieved. With that expression, he wielded a potent charm, rendering me incapable of expressing any irritation. That evening, as Shinli donned his bathrobe and approached me, I had already devised a plan. I boldly pulled him down beside me and, closing my eyes, leaned in to kiss him. However, he deftly turned his head away. Chuyun, I said nothing in response, pulling him in for another kiss. This time, he did not evade me, and our lips met successfully, revealing a surprising lack of resistance on my part. Was it due to affection? They felt soft, akin to jelly. Our first kiss was fleeting, a mere brush of contact. We soon parted. All right, I remarked, observing Shinli's earlobes gradually turn crimson. I intended to release him, but he fixed his gaze upon me, unwilling to let go. In the next moment, a kiss imbued with a crisp intensity descended upon my lips, exuding an undeniable dominance. Reciprocity, he asserted. Indeed, I had predicted that he would master the art of reciprocity. Enough, I protested. Not enough, he countered. Once more. Epilogue. The first time Shinli laid eyes on Zhou Chuyun was at the commencement ceremony for the first year of middle school. She stood in the second row of their class, radiantly beautiful. Zhou Chuyun was renowned for her dedication to her studies, shunning the proximity of boys. This reputation was so pronounced that even the teachers were aware that early romances had no bearing on her. Thus, he silently observed her from a distance. After much deliberation, he finally heeded a friend's advice and delivered breakfast to her twice. Unfortunately, on the first occasion, she was absent due to illness, and on the second, she unceremoniously tossed it into the trash. Over the course of 6 years as classmates, they exchanged a total of 23 words. Classmate, your pen. Thank you. Class monitor. The teacher requests your presence in the office. Okay, I'll be there shortly. After the college entrance examination, all classmates ventured their separate ways. Shun Linyu never anticipated that his next encounter with Zhou Chuyun would be at their engagement banquet. At that moment, he felt a profound gratitude for his family background. How fortunate he was to possess a good lineage. A year into their marriage, he suddenly discerned a change in Zhou Chuyun's gaze towards him, tinged with playful teasing, uncertainty, and a hint of astonishment. Then one day, she began to avoid him, as if harboring resentment. Later, Shun Linyu learned that she believed he had a cherished first love, someone he remained devoted to. He found this notion amusing. His first love, wasn't he at her? After all, during those years, why else would he have gone out of his way to find reasons to speak with her, the class monitor? He merely wished to converse with her a bit more. During the commencement ceremony of Chungli Middle School's first-year students, due to a malfunction in the auditorium, all faculty and students were compelled to hold the ceremony on the playground. The sun poured down, leaving one feeling lightheaded from the heat. Isn't it too coincidental that it broke down? I refuse to believe it. Surely the school doesn't intend to deny U.S. air conditioning? The crowd was filled with murmurs of discontent, creating a cacophony of sound. Standing on stage behind the speaker, Shun Linyu casually surveyed the audience below. Amidst the throng, he spotted Zhou Chuyun standing there, slightly tilting her face upwards, her gaze momentarily wandering. A gentle breeze tousled her hair. Shun Linyu found himself holding his breath. In the midst of the uproar, he saw only her. In that instant, Shun Linyu understood what it meant to experience love at first sight, what it meant to feel one's heart flutter. It was merely a fleeting moment, a breath of wind. The end. Thank you for listening, and we shall meet again in the next story.